Today I'm going to be talking about ADHD and the effects of it, as well as some personal experiences because I have it. So ADHD, also known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, affects over 6.1 million American children, and out of those numbers, 3.3 million are aged between 12 to 17 years old. This disorder can make teens and children very fidgety, hard to control, and makes them hard to discipline or makes it hard for them to focus in school. ADHD is a hyperactivity disorder that affects people of all ages, but mainly teenagers between 12 to 17 years of age, according to ADDRC.org. This makes it harder for them to focus in school and other activities, thus making them more susceptible to bad grades, anxiety, or even depression. ADHD can make a child have worse behavior, thus leading to more disciplinary actions being taken. There are different signs of ADHD, such as trouble concentrating, paying attention, staying organized, and remembering details. There are ways to be able to detect signs of this early on, the earliest being around age 4, and the normal age detection range being 5 or 6. That was when I was diagnosed with it. Fortunately, most children go undiagnosed when they have ADHD, so most of the time they're labeled as troublemakers. This is the most common error among parents and teachers. Although diagnosing ADHD can be very difficult, children have to go through a 3-hour test to determine if they have ADD or ADHD. ADD is just a lesser version of ADHD. There are different ways to treat ADHD. The most common one, unfortunately, is taking medication for it, which I do not support, and neither do my parents. ADHD can cause anxiety, depression, or eating disorders, according to CDC.gov. And over 6.4 million American children are diagnosed with it. I am one of those lucky people. Let me say, having ADHD is not fun at all. Being able to just not focus in school, just daydreaming all day, makes me mad because I enjoy learning in school, kind of. But most of the time I daydream and don't pay attention in class because I'm not able to focus. This hit me hard, especially in 9th grade when I was first started freshman year. It was terrible. I didn't focus on any of my classes. I just couldn't wrap my head around concepts. I was daydreaming. Even had a little anxiety because it was a new and unfamiliar atmosphere where I felt like I wouldn't be able to get work done because I didn't know anybody or know any teachers. I still procrastinate way too much because I put off assignments last minute because I think I can just do it later. In fact, that's actually what I'm doing right now. ADHD is not really seen as a mental disorder by some people, but it definitely is a mental disorder because it affects the minds of the little kids when they're young in a negative way. There are absolutely no positive effects to this disorder. My experience is not the best with it, especially when I was in preschool. I would be rowdy and just a hyper little kid, but my teacher would always put me in timeout, and even then, that did not work because I would just take a nap. This continued all the way to high school, just me not being able to control certain things that happen, like me not being able to focus. I was never put on any medication, thank the Lord, because my parents didn't want that for me, and so they had to deal with me, a hyper little kid who simply just did not stop. Luckily, my symptoms are a lot more suppressed now, but there is still me not having self-control, being able to focus, getting distracted easily, that's a big one, and procrastinating. It's not fun, but I also recommend not putting a child on meds because as a parent, you should want your kids to be able to jump around, be crazy, and live as a kid, as long as they can handle it, of course. My parents didn't put me on medication because they wanted me to be able to be free and have an imagination and be who I am today and not like some robot with monotone. I'm thankful for that because I would be a completely different person today if I was put on medication. According to healthline.com and pubmed.gov, the cost of illness for a person with ADHD is $14,576 each year. That means ADHD costs Americans $42.5 billion each year. And that's on the more conservative side of ADHD prevalence estimates. This includes healthcare costs and extra education costs for the child. ADHD medicine is not cheap, and neither is a therapy for it. In the end, ADHD is a disorder that affects too many children, me being one of them. ADHD can cause a child to lack focus in their schoolwork or in their job, can make them have unnecessary disciplinary action, and in the end, a child can end up having other disorders such as depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and eating disorders. ADHD is not fun at all, and it should be taken very seriously because it affects over 6.4 million American children, and many more are left undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. I hope I gave some more insight and personal experience on this disorder to help spread awareness for it. And yeah.